Welcome back to the unit on fractions. Today's lesson is about solving real-world problems that involve fractions. The goal of today's lesson is that you can make a plan for problem solving and then solve the word problems that involve fractions. Here are some problem solving steps that are good to use with any math problem, not just these ones involving fractions. It's good to draw a model to represent the problem or any kind of picture to help you visualize the problem so you can see the information that you're given and you can also visualize what you're being asked to solve. It's good to make a plan and follow that. It's good to have an estimate so you can check that your solution is reasonable. And it's also good to label your calculations as you work so that you don't end up with a page of numbers. If you want to go back and check them, it's really hard to check unlabeled numbers. So here's our first example. Sophie buys a length of string that's 20 meters long. She uses 3 meters of string to tie a parcel, and then she cuts the remaining string into equal pieces, each half a meter long. How many of these pieces does she cut? So I'm going to start by drawing a model. She has her piece or her roll of string, which is 20 meters long, and she uses 3 meters to tie a parcel. So here's 3 meters, here say, and then she cuts the remaining piece into half meter pieces. How many of these can she cut? Alright, so my plan is that I am going to subtract the part that she used for the parcel, subtract the 3 meters for the parcel. And then my next step is I'm going to divide the remainder by 1/2, or remainder, because it's in half-inch pieces. So I'm going to, and let me do an estimate as well. So I'll do an estimate first. If I cut the entire 20 meters by halves, there's 2 halves in each of the 20s, so that would be 40 pieces. So I'm going to have less than 40. If I had 10 meters and divided in halves, that would be 20 pieces. So it's going to be somewhere between 20 and 40 pieces, and 17 is closer to 20 than it is to 10 to be in here. So I would say 30 something pieces. So if I get a really high number or a really low number, I know it's incorrect. If I get somewhere in the 30s, it makes me comfortable that my answer is good. So I'm going to subtract 3 from 20 according to my plan, and I have 17 meters to be cut in halves, half meter pieces. And so then I'm going to divide 17 by 1/2, and I know that I can multiply by the reciprocal of 1/2, which is 2 over 1, or just 2, and I get 34. And looking at my estimate, I estimated 30 something, so I'm happy to get 34, and I need to write my units 34 pieces. And I'll write it up here as well, 34 pieces. So we have another example where we have a fish tank at an aquarium that's 10 feet long, 8 1/4 feet wide, and 6 feet tall. And they'd like to put some large fish in the tank that need 450 cubic feet of water. Is this tank big enough? Can it hold enough water for these fish? So first I'm going to draw a model. I'm just going to draw the tank. And I'm going to label the sides 10 feet, 8 1/4 feet, and 6 feet tall. And they want to put some fish in, and they need 450 cubic feet. Can the tank hold enough? Well, I need to calculate. My plan is to calculate the volume of the tank to see if it's greater than 450. If it is greater than 450 feet cubed. And to calculate the volume, I'm going to use the volume formula, which is, I'm going to write it up here, volume is equal to length times width times height. Okay, and so my volume that it can hold is, let me do an estimate first, sorry. So my estimate, I'm going to kind of round these numbers. I'm going to say 10, I'm going to round 8 1/4 up, and I'm going to round 6 down. So I'm going to say 10 times 10 times 5, which would be 500 feet cubed. So I know it's going to be somewhere around that. So let me do my calculations now. Length 10, width I'm going to convert 8 1/4 to an improper fraction, which is 33/4, and I'm going to multiply that by the height, which is 6. And when I multiply all of these out, I get a volume of 495 feet cubed, or cubic feet, 495 cubic feet. I had estimated about 500, so I'm happy with 495. So now I need to check. They want at least 450 feet, or cubic feet. So do they have enough? Yes. The tank can hold enough water for these fish. Yes, because 495 is greater than 450. So they have room to spare to put these fish in. So you saw how we drew a model. In one we drew the length of string, and in the other one we drew the tank and filled in the measurements. And so that helps us visualize the problem. With the piece of string, we could see that we needed to cut it into this part into little pieces. I made a plan for each problem and how I'm going to solve it, decided on what formula I was going to use or whatever. I did a quick estimate at the side so I could check that my solution was reasonable, and I labelled my calculations as I went along. Let's look. So here I labelled like the units here, and I wrote a little note, yes, because 495 is greater than 450. And here I labelled 17 metres to be cut into halves, and then I wrote my answer with the number of pieces, and here I wrote notes like 30 something pieces. I didn't just write 30. So I labelled as I went along, so it can make sense to me when I go and look back over it. That's especially helpful if I make a mistake. I can look for and find my mistake. So today's goals, you saw how to make a plan, the various steps involved in making a plan, and how to solve problems that involve fractions. And that's the end of today's lesson.